After the event, they very kindly put on a drinks reception in a lovely, lovely hotel. This was encouraged to let people from all walks of life who may have different views and different, in my case, different styles. I was pointed out a few times. People kept going up to me. And one guy didn't know how to say this because he was very worried about offending me, which is silly. You know, say something and offend someone and offend someone. Even you look like you could be on their side. And that's what I got a million times. And the only thing that annoyed me about that, if you can even use the word annoy, because it is, you know, we're all there having a good time, was we need to stop thinking in terms of their side and our side, because that's where you get terms like the far right for having a simple opinion that the general public agree with. I think that plays into the media's hands, but I get why it's commonplace to say that. I'm guilty of saying it myself sometimes, and it's a simple way of sort of separating two points of view. I grew up inherently on the left. You could even have called me far left in certain situations. Everyone is left wing when they're young, most people, and then they grow up and they have bills to pay and taxes, and then they kind of go, no, fuck this, and they become a little bit more right. But I don't think I'm alone on that. I think maybe mine is more extreme. I genuinely could never find a single person back in the day who supported Jeremy Corbyn and Donald Trump at the same time. So maybe I was alone there. Whenever someone says that to me, you look like you could be on their side. You know, what is their side, man? You know, we shouldn't talk like that. But I do get it. And it's funny because in the opposite side, where I be in circles where there are a lot of left-wing friends or just people around, which is entirely fine. I don't want to ever mix with one or the other. It needs to be both. Otherwise, I'm as guilty as some of the extremists who would call the police on their father for having a different opinion, or who would cut off relationships with their friends for having a different view. If they're mature enough to accept my opinions and my beliefs the way I hope most of my audience are, then as long as your personality's fine and you're up for a laugh and a bit of good conversation, good natured debate, I don't care. I don't give a shit who you are or what your opinion is. But I have experienced it on the other end, where when I'm in those circles, they assume that because I dress a certain way that I'm on their side, so to speak, as well. But the only thing that annoys me then, and this is the opposite of what the right do, is when they find out that you aren't necessarily as 100% for certain things as they may be, rather than engage and kind of ask why, they just go ooh and walk away and shit like that in a very childish way. It's as if they're annoyed that they were fooled. But I'm not trying to fool anybody. I dress how I dress because I believe in sovereignty. I would be lying to myself if I go to a wedding or an event and kind of go, I have to dress a certain way because I've been told to dress this way. I always find a way to put my own little stamp on things, and I think everyone should. Otherwise, be a sheep, enjoy it, but don't ask me to do the same. To assume everyone thinks the same, and I think the right have a different approach where they're almost happy when people defy expectations or defy what they presume, and will engage either way, whether you agree or not. This didn't capture on camera because by this point the drinks reception was in full flow, but a guy did say to me, I'd say 20-30 years ago it was cool to be liberal, and he's fucking right, because what did it mean? It meant your freedom. It meant if this movement was started 20 years ago, we would be called far left, because back then, look at the hippie movement of the 60s. It was about sticking it to the man, having your own beliefs, dressing how you want to dress, being who you want to be. They were all left-wing qualities. They wanted the government to stay the fuck out of people's lives. Who does that sound like today? Because it isn't the left. That's where they lost me, at least, and I know I'm not alone in that. I think maybe mine is more extreme. I genuinely could never find a single person back in the day who supported Jeremy Corbyn and Donald Trump at the same time, so maybe I was alone there. Yeah, those two men, I don't think they can stand each other. I don't think Donald Trump's ever uttered Jeremy Corbyn's name, but Jeremy Corbyn's definitely said a few things about Donald Trump. It would have been fucking terrific though if they had both had been in part at the same time, just because they would have had to engage with each other. That would have been funny to watch, but whatever, you know, in a parallel world. I look at Jeremy Corbyn now and I still completely agree with a lot of his values, so I kind of have almost found myself back in the situation of 2016 or 17 where you have Donald Trump running in America and Jeremy Corbyn running in the UK, albeit not for Prime Minister anymore, but you know, whenever you have the media attacking the same way, even though both of those guys have two completely different mindsets, you have to ask yourself why. What are they trying to preserve? Because if it's the status quo of today, then no thank you. It's well out of date. You can't preserve it. And I'll tell you this now, and no doubt this will probably be repeated many times in this channel. The reason why I supported both of those guys is not because I agree with every point they have. You would be a cultist if you did. It's simply because the Sovereign Project and me stand for the underdog. So when I see someone who's taking on the establishment, wants to shake things up, I'm going to be behind them. So that's where I stand. We support the underdogs. And make no mistake, there's no bigger underdog at all than the people. So when you have a government, any government, trying to squash the people's right to speak out against that government or to even share a meme, then you best believe we're going to be there.